going to go to you, and I'm going to bring your presentation up, and you should be able to see that.
Okay. So brothers, we're going to talk about diversity, inclusion, and equity. And this really ties to a lot of things that are going on in our society right now around all the protests around the country, around George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all the deaths we've incurred as Black men in this country and as Black people in this country. So I'm going to tie this topic really to that. So next slide. Am I driving? You driving?
There you go.
Okay. Let me just move this out of the way.
Can you see it?
Yep, I can see it.
All right.
Okay. So kind of tied to what Brother Thompson was talking about as far as your brand, your identity. Let's get real that people only see 20% of us. That's that iceberg on the left side of the slide. And on the right side is really the puzzle around who we are. On the surface, they see us as Black men. We're a lot more than that. So for all the CAP believers on the call, I want you to if you have a piece of paper, there's 9 pieces of this puzzle. I'm gonna talk about 7 pieces around who we are and who you are. I'll go first. I'm a father, I'm a Kappa, I'm a singer, I'm an LGBTQI ally, I'm foreign born, I'm a political scientist. So when you see me, you don't see those other pieces. You see a black shell, you see a Black man, you see my skin, you see the tone of my skin, my hair color. You don't see the other parts of me. So my point is that you are more than what people see. And part of your brand is to allow people to communicate and see that, for you to communicate that, for folks to see that who you are. You may be athletes, you may be musicians, and your sons, you may be community activists, you may be a volunteer, but who are you really? And we have a responsibility as Black men to tell people who we really are. Not that we're going to avoid or shy away from being African Americans. We're rich, we're proud of that. We're the first people, we're the chosen ones. That's a given. We're going to be able to peel that onion back as far as who we are really. But you see more than just me as an African American person. I have more depth to my character as far as who I am. Okay, so again, 7 pieces to the 9 pieces in this puzzle. I want each of us to write down 7 as far as who are you really. And we're going to come back to that in just a second. Next slide. So in this whole conversation around identity, the first leg of the stool is around diversity. And the diversity on this slide is defined as our race. We talked about that, African American men, our ethnicity, where we're from, gender, our sexual orientation, our socioeconomic status, our age, our physical abilities, religious preferences, political beliefs, and ideologies. But there's one diversity piece on this slide that purposely is missing. I want the CAP leaders to kind of tell me which piece do you think is missing as far as diversity, who we are really. Which piece is missing? One of our smart CAP leaders, and what piece is missing? And there's a hush over the crowd.
We are.
I feel like it's the social economic statute that we're missing.
Okay, that socioeconomics is there, my brother. It's already there. What other piece is missing?
I want to say like our own personality, our individual personality.
Okay, that could be a piece that's missing. Personality, yep.
Education.
What's that?
Education.
Okay, education is missing, yes. Okay.
Interest.
Interest could be missing, yes. Okay. Let me help with that. It's kind of embedded in age. It's called generational diversity. So right now there's 5 generations operating on the planet. And I call them builders, boomers, busters, bridgers, and beacons. And builders are people that are in their 70s. Boomers are folks, their age-wise are like 60 and 50. Busters are folks in their 30s. They're called millennials. Bridgers are folks in their 20s. And beacons, what I call the hopeful generation, are you guys in your teens. So beacons in your teens. So generational diversity is also the key aspect of diversity. It really peels back the age as far as diversity is concerned. So again, are comprised of a lot of these different variables in diversity. So right now, a problem in America is that we're still struggling with honoring and valuing diversity, individual diversity and diversity around these different categories. Next slide. So what is inclusion? Inclusion means that all people, and I'll stress all people, regardless of their diversity, and we had diversity in the first slide, regardless of diversity, have the right to be respected, welcomed, appreciated, and valued as members of their community. And there's too many examples right now of our folks being disrespected, not welcomed, not appreciated, and not valued in our communities. But inclusion is a premise that we are, again, welcome, appreciated, valued, and respected. So as leaders of Capital League and leaders within inside our organization, we're going to ask you to really take this inclusion piece with a lot of heart. So if you're leaders of organizations and school, your community, really focus on the fact, are people really respected? Are they welcome as a result of their diversity? Are they appreciated and shown appreciation? Are they valued as members of their community? Inclusion also means that all voices are heard. We've had a lot of peaceful protests around the country the last several months. Peaceful protests. But somehow on the other side of that, folks haven't been so peaceful. They haven't treated the protesters with respect. They haven't been welcoming. They haven't valued them. But all voices should be heard. And also, inclusion includes being in the room when it happens. I'll take that from Hamilton. Being in the room when it happens. You know, going to city council meetings, board of education meetings, but being in a room where it happens, where decisions are being made. So the protests are great, but if we're not in a room where the decisions are being made, where it happens, we're not being more inclusive. If we're not being invited in or putting ourselves in those rooms, that's inclusion. It also means having a seat at the decision-making table. We all know as African-American men that white males rule America. They dominate every sector of our society. They're the power brokers. 98% of the folks in the Senate, US Senate, are white men. 96% of governors are white men. 96% of folks who control the media are white men. So we're somewhat at the behest of white men because they're decision makers. But we've got to ensure that we have a seat at that decision-making table. And when we do, we can't be shy about our agenda. We got to be courageous, God-fearing Black men around our voices being heard and our agenda being taken seriously. That's the inclusion for all. Okay. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. So equity. So let's go back to, so diversity is something that a lot of businesses focus on. I'll say after the civil rights movement through the early 2000s, we began to talk about inclusion. You know, who's around the decision-making table, whose voice is being heard. But now the operative word is around equity. I want to draw your attention to this slide developed by a consulting company called Deloitte. So equality is the same solution for everybody, regardless of their position in life. Equity is making allowances for those who have some disparities. You look at that second part of the slide. So the shorter person on the right is going to need 3 boulders under them to be able to see the mountainside. That's equity. It means the same size doesn't fit all. Okay? Different starting places in life, different solutions needed to give that person a chance to be in the game, to see the mountainside. Equity is removing barriers. Okay? Equality, same solution for everybody. Equity, different solutions based upon your circumstances in life. And equity is removing barriers. So we know as African Americans that we came here as slaves on a ship, 3/4 in the Constitution, property. So we've been behind the entire time. And the US government had put laws into place, even prior to Jim Crow, to give white folks an economic advantage over us. So we've been behind. So separate but equal doesn't really help us move forward. Equity to some degree, but we need barriers to remove. So there are no barriers in place. So we get that equal chance in the race to pursue the American dream and fulfill our God-given talents and dreams as Americans. So equity is really moving barriers. So right now, a lot of folks are talking about structural, systematic, institutional racism. That's about removing barriers. The protests are fine, but if we don't remove barriers and get allies and advocates to help us remove barriers, we'll really be back to talking about equality or equity in this slide. So what is equity? It's fair and just treatment. We all know as Black men in America that sometimes we don't, well, not sometimes, most of the damn time, we don't get fair and just treatment from the large society. But that's what equity really is. It's access to capital, resources, education, opportunities, and advancement. To ensure that America fulfills their promises, Dr. King said, we have a chance at this American dream. Equity is also ensuring that there's a level playing field in terms of laws, rules, executive orders applied evenly and consistently. We know as Black men that for the same crime that we commit as a Black person, a white person will get a lesser sentence. That is not equity. So for those of you who may go into the criminal justice system, may become lawyers, we need to really march on equity. Laws that are applied evenly and consistently. Equity also refers to the recognition that diverse groups face barriers. All groups start from a different position in life. We started on the belly of slave ships. We've had the civil rights movement. We're still trying to get our freedom in America. We're searching for equity. So to summarize this, we want our diversity honored. We want to be included, a seat at the table, a decision-making table. We want equity in America. Same rules applied evenly, consistently, and fairly from an equity standpoint. So I said all this pretty fast, trying to get us back on time. Let me go back to the second slide with the puzzle. So let me get a couple of you Capitol leaguers to tell us really, beyond what we see you as, who are you really? Let me get a couple of volunteers. What are the pieces to your puzzle?
I can volunteer.
Yep, go ahead.
So my name is John Mean Sherman. I'm part of Petersburg Kappa League. So who am I as a person? I am a GROTC cadet, and I hold a leadership position in there. I am a football player and a wrestler. I have a 4.0 GPA. I take dual enrollment classes, which is college level classes, which I'm trying to get my schedule for next year currently right now. My dream is to go into the military as an officer. I want to either go to the United States Naval Academy or West Point, but if I can't get into those academies, I'll probably go to VMI or Virginia Tech, where the Corps cadets are. And I'm also currently the captain of the wrestling team. And it's been hard with the COVID, but I think we're getting through it. I'm still maintaining my grade, maintaining my health, and I'm taking the SAT soon. I've been studying for that. But it's been rough, but we're getting through it. Me and my family, we've been doing well.
Okay, thank you so much. Your brother Tom talked about the narrative. So below the iceberg is really our narrative. Dr. King talked about the content of our character versus the color of our skin. Both are important. But people need to know who we are really. And that's what's below the iceberg. That's who your personal puzzle is. It's also tied to your personal brand. We talked about diversity, inclusion, and equity. Right now, we're asking America to honor our diversity, to include us around the decision-making table, and to pursue equity, fairness for all as African-American men in this country. We've been here for over 418 years. It's time for more equity for us as people. Any questions for me on this section that we've covered today? Comments or questions?
Capitol leaguers, any questions? Again, good presentation, Brother King.
I have a cool question.
Yes.
So how did, for this, I want to present it. So how did you get through adversity yourself? Like when you realized things were unfair, how did you get through that? How did you develop, and how did that develop you as a person or as a Black man in America? How did you cope with that?
Yeah, great question. I'm a business person. I'm a human resource executive. And what I try to do in any organization is first understand the financials. So if you know how the organization makes money, you're going to have a better seat at the table. how the revenue comes in, what the expenses are, what the bottom line is, what the goals and objectives are. So come in with some credibility around the financial aspect, and then shift to the people and the human resources aspect. If you can't do the basic math or the quantum math around the business model and the finances, you may not get a seat at the table. So that's been my approach, as well as to try to skate ahead of all the quote smart folks around the table by really doing my homework and doing more homework and outworking the person next to me, white, black, green, yellow, or indifferent, regardless of their ethnicity, to make sure that nobody's going to outwork me in my position. So I can be viewed as very, very, very credible. And going with data to support my decisions and minimize my emotions. That's been my approach. Good question.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Jameer, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Email me. My name is Thomas McCaleb. I'm one of the brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi. My email address is thomas.mccaleb, just like you see it, @gmail.com. A couple of my good friends are SEALs. You might know what that is. And I want to introduce you to them so they can give you some tips and tricks as you get yourself in position. And maybe we might be able to put you in touch with one of those letters that you're going to need. Talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
And Jameer, if you don't remember his email, just email me. I know you've got mine. So.
Yeah, I got you. Thank you.
Any other questions for me as I close my piece? Brothers, anything you want to add on the topic of diversity, inclusion, and equity? Any of the brothers want to add?
One of the things that I would add to that, Brother King, is again, one of the things that you highlighted is outworking everybody that was working beside you. Again, I teach ethics, and one of the things that I teach my students is facts are not feelings. When doing business, you cannot operate out of your emotions. You have to base your decisions on what you know and not what you think. So even when you go to class, before you go to class, make sure you study the subject that is being discussed so that you can answer the question based on what you know, not playing a guessing game. And the same thing works with in the work world. You're being paid based on what you know, not based on what you thought.
Good.
So Brother King, again, great presentation.